Data is what is driving everything in the markets today. And I have been a trader who's always believed that we have to exploit the power in data. And if you keep ignoring data, if you keep ignoring information, and if you're relying on old outdated information, then you're putting yourself up for a life of struggle in the markets. The markets tend to keep changing all the times. The cricket which was played by the likes of Kapil Dev and Ravi Shastri and Sunil Gavaskar back in the 80s is very, very different from the cricket which is played today. The game has changed. Now, why am I saying that? Because a lot of traders when they come to the markets, they are focused on a lot of trading strategies which were once very useful, but back in about 90s and 2000s and 2010. The last decade, the kind of change which has happened in the market has been astronomical, big, huge impact. It has propelled NSE to be the #1 derivatives exchange in the world in terms of contracts traded. And it's not just retail traders, it's a lot of institutions from overseas who have come in and who are trading in these markets today, right? So you can ignore all that is happening around you, or you can make life better for yourself. And the way you can make life better for yourself is to arm yourself with information, and not just arm yourself with information, learn how to strategize with that information, learn how to monetize with that information. Today, and we're going to be talking about specific use cases of the options market, right? So if VWAP is volume weighted average price, what is VPOC? Now, VPOC is simply the volume point of control, or in short, the area where the largest concentration of volume is on a volume profile chart. So there is a distinction we make at VTrender when it comes to volume. 90-95% of traders, when they look at volume below the price bar. At VTrender, what we do is we focus on volume right next to the price bar, and we also focus on. So as we go into this new calendar year 2025, I just want to talk to you about adopting a right process, about working with what you are comfortable with what you should be at. I've just walked you through a small element about what the order flow trading is all about, and I've used exactly what I've spoken to you about. These are the signals which we do every single day. So there are two rules which we surround these IB and IS signals with, and the first rule is the high of the IS bar and the low of the IB bar become immediate stop losses with a small filter. The second rule is all these signals are valid for 10 bars. So if they came in about 30 minutes, they are valid for the next 300 minutes. So we always define our signaling in terms of time. One signal which is come in on a 30-minute time frame or even on a 5-minute time frame is not valid forever, right? So a lot of traders what they do is once they get a signal on whichever chart, on whichever indicator they are looking at, they expect that signal to last them for a lifetime. That's not how the derivative market works. The derivative market is very, very time defined. Time is a very, very critical element of the way.
Good evening, guys. Good evening, everyone. A warm welcome. Great. So let's start this Monday 5 p.m. session with the weekly review of what has happened in spot last week. And then we'll move on to today's auction in both spot as well as futures and see what the order flow has showed us today and what we can look for the this week ahead. which is a holiday shortened week. So we only have 3 more sessions to go if you exclude today's. So we have the weekly report put up on the website. And as per this weekly report, let us start with the Nifty spot. What we did in Nifty spot last week was we opened with this open rejection reverse lower. But what we saw was we did repair these poor lows from previous week. But what we did was we failed to make a meaningful extension lower, because if the seller is in control, what you want to see, one is a initiative selling tail, which we got. After that, we would want the initial balance to get extended by a good uh, range. But that was not the case on Monday. So that was the first sign that the sellers were kind of losing control, or they were getting exhausted. This D, E, and F, three TPOs on Monday were right at the big round number of 22,000. I think 22004 was the lows. So this itself was showing us that the selling was drying up. So what we did on Tuesday last week was we opened lower, but the lower open did not get more fresh supply. In fact, we saw open rejection reverse back into previous range and value, and we went on to complete one part of the 80% rule, which is we went on to hit the POC. We stalled right at this POC of Monday, and we formed a P-shaped profile. But what these 2 days told us was, from here, the Monday, which was continued to be controlled by the sellers, dominated by the sellers, there was a change of control seen because of this initiative buying tail. Yes, we still had this initiative selling tail from Monday, which had to be taken out. But this was the start. This was telling us the first sign came on Monday, where the seller failed to make a good range extension. Then the next sign came with this initiative buying tail on Tuesday. So this, it was not at all a surprise that we got this big initiative, initiative buying tail on Wednesday, which not only drove us past these two values, but we also went on to get above this highs of Monday. So what we did in this process was we confirmed a failed auction on the weekly time frame at this lows of 21964. So we got back about this 22261 with an extension handle, and we went on to form a P-shaped profile where this G period high stalled right at this value of previous week. So this was still a bullish profile because we had the buying tail intact. And what we did on Thursday was we continued the up move. We opened higher, but the higher open was seen as a rejection, because this was an open rejection reverse on Thursday. We opened higher, hit this 22,500 level, and we got back into previous range and did the 80% rule in the value of Wednesday. So it was actually looking as if the sellers have come back. But then what we did here was, in market profile, we look at value, we trade value, we don't trade price. So in case the seller had to be in complete control, they had to extend the initial balance and got accepted below this value, which did not happen. What we saw was we made lows of B right at this value area low, and we left a buying tail. So we did have a initiative selling tail also at the top, but this buying tail meant that the buyers were holding this zone. And what we went on to do later in the day was we went on to negate the selling tail. We negated the open rejection reverse start, and we made new highs, multiple range extensions on the upside. So this told us that the buyer was still in control, and this tail was the new reference. So then what we Friday we saw a sedate open, and it was the first day of the week where there was no initiative tail, because all rest of the days we got a initiative selling tail followed by 3 initiative buying tails. So here we did not get any tail in the initial balance, but what we saw was this value was getting uh, supported. So that is the reason we formed higher value, but the range contracted and we formed a nice balance. So this was a sign that the trade facilitation was getting bit poor on the upside. So this was the first signal that maybe the upside, which started from this initiative buying tail, is now looking for a pause or a short term end. So what we call the IPM, initial price movement in auction market theory, was completing the first stage and could be getting into the second stage. The second stage could be a balance, or it could also mean a retracement. So we will need to see what happens, what it does in the coming sessions. So this is what this is how we are placed, and the close was right at this prominent POC. So we have the small brief which is put up. So what we did, the weekly profile was a neutral extreme one to the upside with overlapping to lower value, but the close was above value, means the PLR for the coming week will be toward the extension handle of 22720 and the higher VPOCs of 22894 and 23806. This is provided we stay above this value of last week. And on the downside, we need to uh, if we get below Friday's value area, then we could look for a test of these three lower references. So this is the weekly profile. It is a neutral extreme to the upside with the POC right at the bottom. 22071 is the POC, which could be our final objective this week if we probe lower. So the hypos were put up for today, and what we did, let us have a look at what we have done today. I'll just increase the TPO size so that we can compare the daily. So what I have done is I've opened up the weekly spot chart of Nifty, and this also includes today's profile. So what we did today in the morning, we made a probe lower, but we took support right at the 22,500 level, and we made a higher high in B. So we left a big initiative buying tail in A. So here at the close of the initial balance, if you would have seen, this was a very bullish start for the day. But as we always maintain, initiative buyer will always extend the range in his direction. So if this was an initiative buying tail, if this had to hold, we had to make multiple range extensions higher and take off this extension handle of 22720 and look for a tag of this VPOC of 22894. But what instead happened today was we could not extend above B, and we left a very small selling tail in the initial balance. So A and B are both part of the initial balance. So tail singles, as we call, of both TPOs remain important. So we saw last week how we got a A period selling tail and a B period buying tail, but later in the day the B period buying tail held and the A period was negated. I'll just show that to you. That was on Thursday's profile. So this was that profile where it looked as if the seller will be in control because we had this big A period selling tail, but this was uh, opposed by this B period buying tail which held, and after this held we went on to negate this entire selling tail. So same thing happened today. What we did today was we left a very small B period selling tail, but then later in the day we saw that we were not able to extend higher, and therefore the PLR became into this previous day's value. We got got inside this in the F period, after which we completed the 80% rule, and what we have done into the close is left an extension handle at this 22498 level and closed around the lows. So what does today's auction tell us? One thing is there is a selling tail for the week, and we were not able to take off this extension handle. This is a initiative selling zone because we opened lower on 24th of February. This gap is an invisible selling tail. So we have got rejected right at that gap zone. And today's high is just below the arrow point, which we have been following for the March series, which is at 22684. The high we made today in spot is 22676. And all these things into consideration, we know that this is a supply zone. And in spot, if you're getting a selling tail in the supply zone and you negate the buying tail which was there in the morning, you know that now the seller is in control. So what will be the references going forward? Our first reference would be this halfback of 22553, an important reference, and this extension handle of 22498. So tomorrow at open, if we remain below this 22498, we are looking for a probe lower into this value of Thursday and a tag of this VPOC of 22361. And we have also already mentioned in the weekly report the lower references 22361, which is the POC, unvisited VPOC, and this is 22213, which is this buying tail from 5th of March, and then finally this 22071, which is the POC of last week from where the neutral extreme profile shaped up. So this is as far as the downside in spot is concerned, whereas on the upside, we will have to first negate this extension handle. Above this, then we'll have to get, we have this 80% rule, so we will have to get back above this 22553 and then take off this pullback high of 22619 and this selling tail, which is from 22655. So these references would be updated in the report, the weekly report, and the hypos for tomorrow would be posted end of day today. So you can be ready with that for tomorrow's auction. But as of now, the close of today is looking that we are in for some more downside in Nifty. And what happens at the 22361 will uh, tell us whether we are continuing lower or we will get support here and come back uh, into today's range. So value wise, we have formed overlapping value. You can merge these two profiles and you can also have this value as our reference for upside. So that in spot, that is what it is. We have to look at that 22500 level at the open for tomorrow, which is also I think the gamma zero level, and it'll be an important reference for this week's settlement. We'll have to see how the volumes are building up in the 22500 call and put. If we are going to give a move, continuing to move away from this 22500, then the puts can be seen as a good option to go long, and the calls can be seen as a option to go short. So this is as far as this Nifty spot is concerned. Let's have a quick look at the Bank Nifty spot. Last week in Bank Nifty, we opened similarly with an open rejection reverse where we left a big initiative selling tail, which swiped through previous week's value. And what we did was we formed a B-shaped profile. In Nifty, we at least made an attempt to extend lower. In Bank Nifty, we did not extend the initial balance. And this initial balance low, although we made new lows for the year 2025, January we had made a low of 47841, I think. So 47844 was the low, and last Monday we made new lows, marginal new lows of 47841. But the importance of this zone was the 2024 value area low is also around the same level. 47833 is the value area low of the entire year of 2024, and 5th June, which is a very important day, both in Nifty as well as Bank Nifty, because it was post that election results day where we started to leave an initiative buying tail and start trending higher. So that VPOC from that day is also right at that 47833 level. So when that was holding and we were not able to extend lower in spot, it was telling us that just like in Nifty, the selling is not no longer there. So what we did not probe below this low, but the next day we opened with an initiative buying tail. So already we knew that this is an important support, and from there when we get an initiative buying tail, we know now we are looking for upside. So this initiative buying tail of Tuesday was complemented by another initiative buying tail on Wednesday. So we formed two P-shaped profiles and we went on to tag this weekly VPOC of 48643. Here again, we can see how Bank Nifty, although we got initiative buying tails, on the upside, we were not able to do much. The range extension was very minimal. You can see just one single JTP outside, and then here we did not extend the IB. So as per market profile, even the buyers were not able to do a good job. So Bank Nifty, that is the reason Bank Nifty was not as bullish as Nifty was. And that was also seen in the order flow of last week. From the start of the March series, it was Nifty which was showing us IB 30 bars, but Bank Nifty was not showing any such thing. So that is where everything falls in place, and the structure which is shown by the market profile is confirmed by the order flow. So here you can see when we were not able to make extensions higher, we knew that the supply is prevalent in this zone. So after this couple of P-shaped profiles, when we opened higher, we swiped higher. It was actually a swipe higher on the 6th, on Thursday. We made this high above this weekly value, but we were swiftly rejected. And this resulted in an initiative selling tail. So already we knew after this probe higher that the buyers were not doing a good job. But this initiative selling tail now told us that the PLR now has changed, because yes, definitely these AP rate singles would be support because buyers have come in, but this clear AP rate selling tail at new highs and above previous week's value is telling us that the sellers are now dominant over here. So what we need to see is we needed to see value being formed lower on the daily chart. But what we saw on Friday was it was overlapping to lower value, where once again we made an attempt to probe lower, but we took support in this initiative buying tail from 6th. So just like Nifty, we got a tail at both ends, but in Nifty we went on to negate the AP rate singles, but in Bank Nifty both of them held. So this was a 313 profile. So what we did was the seaside we don't trust. So the seaside probed higher, got rejected in this A period uh, by selling tail. So and we formed overlapping to lower value. So this tail, the weekly profile, was a normal variation up, but we had a selling tail at the top. Value you can see was almost overlapping, almost similar of last 2 weeks. So that is telling us on the higher time frame, Bank Nifty is been in a balance, and we have zones. That is the reason we are getting this A period buying tail at the lower part of the zone and A period selling tail at the upper part of the zone. So value wise, we have formed overlapping value, and we have a selling tail from 48709 to 48889. So we have this value at 48213 to 48693. 48479 is the prominent POC of this week, which would act as a magnet till the time we get a definite move away from that. So how do we get the definite move? That comes either in form of an initiative selling tail or a buying tail, or it comes in form of a extension handle. So till that time, we can expect Bank Nifty to consolidate in this 2 week overlapping value, and we with this 48709 to 48889 being the upside reference, whereas on the downside, this 48213 would have to hold. If we stay below this, then we are looking for a test of this 47833 and 47726. This will be the important support. If this is broken, then we can look for a further probe in that 5th June profile, of which the levels to watch would be this 47308 and 47069. On the upside, if we are able to negate this selling tail, then we can look for a probe towards this 49290, which is the POC from February, the monthly POC. And then we have a selling tail at 50,049. And then the weekly VPOC, the higher weekly VPOC at 5383. So these were the hypos which were given for Bank Nifty today. So you can see how this scale was an important reference. So let's see what we have done today in Bank Nifty weekly chart. So what we saw was, again in Bank Nifty, we saw an initiative buying tail, and we saw that this magnet of 48479 is being held. It is being, the auction is just rotating around this magnet. You can see how till from the A period till the K, all the TPOs are there at this magnet. So that is why we call this weekly VPOC. Uh, we term the weekly VPOC as very important. And whenever you have a prominent weekly VPOC, it becomes double important because that acts like a magnet. It'll get difficult for the auction to give a directional move unless we get some initiative action player. So today at the open, we kept revolving, but we did leave this A period buying tail. But for the upside to happen, we needed to extend higher. We needed to make multiple range extensions to the upside and take off this selling tail, which did not happen. Instead, what we did was, after consolidation forming a P-shaped profile for most part of the day, we left a scene of crime here, the G period lows, and we went on to leave another extension handle at 48285, and we made an attempt to probe below the 2 week value. So this extension handle will be our reference for tomorrow, 48285. And just like we saw in Nifty, the halfback of today, because this is uh, a day where it is made an attempt, but the sellers have made an attempt to move away from this POC. So this scene of crime, which is around that 48360, and this extension handle will be our references on the upside for tomorrow. If we remain below this, then we are looking for a test of that 47833 and this 47726 in the coming days. So that is how we are placed in spot. Now let us move on to the futures chart, and a quick look before we move on to the futures chart. We also have a daily report which is published on the website. This daily report is completely based on futures. So this is the futures market profile chart which is updated. We have the open type, the initial balance, the day type. We have a small brief, and then we have the daily zones, the weekly zone. This is completely based on the futures, and we have the monthly zone. So here we have the rollover point and the series VWAP and the POC which is marked, which are swing references for the current series. Then just like how we have hypos for the spot, we have business areas for the futures. And these business areas are not blind buy or sell levels, but these are actionable levels to watch out, where we can initiate fresh trade based on confirmation from order flow. So this is very important. When we are trading derivatives, we need to know what is the latest volumes, how are the latest volumes coming in that particular instrument. So that is why we need to know what the order flow signals are, and at each level we need to accordingly be ready to take action. So this is both for Nifty futures and Bank Nifty futures. So we put out these business areas for both. And for today, we were looking, this was a nice Gaussian curve which we closed in, and we are looking either for continuation of this balance or a move away from this. So what we did in Nifty futures is we made an attempt to probe lower. You can see the A period made a low below this Friday's value, but this got rejected. And once we got back into previous value, because this was a nice Gaussian curve, we completed the 80% rule. After completing the 80% rule, we went on to probe higher in the B period, but you can see how we have not been able to take off this selling tail from last Friday. In spot, we made new highs, but in futures, we did not. In futures, if you see the order flow chart, you have an RSPOC. You can see how we got this RSPOC at 22730 from Friday, which is where we made those highs in the ETPO. So that RSPOC was not able to be taken out today. So today's order flow, although we did get some support at the lows, 22580 was that business area on the downside. We held that. There was no supply seen at that level in the open, which is why we got back above VWAP and we made this higher high in B. But this higher high in B was failed to get fresh demand. Just like how the sell side was dropping at the lows, the demand was dropping at the highs. And this was also where we had the RSPOC from Friday. So this was very clearly telling us that the buyer is not able to take off this zone. So after which we formed a very narrow range. We remained above VWAP, and this 22650 in this VWAP was our reference, which was 22638, which was coinciding with last previous POC. So as long as we were holding this, we were looking to form a P-shaped profile, and we could have expected the buyers to make a late attempt to give us a spike. But what happened instead was in the JTPO, we broke below this 22638. So a break of that was a trigger. Once you are below VWAP and you're getting reds, you know that you can look for a range extension lower. So first thing we did was complete the 80% rule. This anchored VWAP line, which was showing us change of polarity, broke in the JTPO. So once that broke, it was only uh, apt for us to expect K to show us the direction. K is a very important TPO, and we look for a good move in the K period. So that is what, once we made lower lows in J, we are just waiting for the K to give us the confirmation that it is extending lower. And once we broke this IBL, you can see how the POC shifted right there, and we got in big volumes. the volumes in the K period was more than any period of today on 30 minutes. So it even crossed the A period volumes, which had only 11,000 contracts. So once you do this, what happens? The range extension trade in market profile tells us that the initial balance once broken with VWAP as the reference, you can look for lower targets. And what were the lower targets? We are looking at this VWAP of 22533 and this halfback from 6th of March, which is at 22499. So we went on to tag both these objectives, and in the K period, when we hit that objective, we were getting zeros on the sell side. The cot was more green when we broke this, so that is the reason we were not aggressively bearish into the close. Two things, because the cot was not showing us much supply adding when we broke the IBL. Second thing was the POC shifting lower. But what we have overall done was we have left a swing high on the daily, and then we have broken below this important VWAP of 22533. We have closed below that. So this is uh, not a good sign, and that is the reason we were not expecting the bull to continue for this weekly settlement. And Shai had made it very clear even on Friday that the upside seems to have done, and the weekly with the settlement weekly settlement closing on Thursday, we need to have a fresh approach for the current week's settlement. So the current week settlement has not started in the bull's favor, because on Friday we saw a Gaussian curve, we saw an RS which was not taken out today, and today we saw an initiative buying tail getting negated. So that is telling us that the seller has now taken control, and because we have closed below today's VWAP, that will be our reference. The today's VWAP will be the reference for the sellers to hold on, and on lower side we will look to get accepted below this POC of today, and then this anchored VWAP, which is from the swing low of 4th of March, which will act as the support. So this is as far as the Nifty futures is concerned. Order flow is not given us any IS30 signal so far, and the cot is also not been too bearish. So we will need some reds to add in at open tomorrow to continue the downward slide. And we are at this important juncture of this 22470, which we will have to watch tomorrow at the open. So before I move on to the Bank Nifty, there's a question by Deven who is asking, then he's not able to understand anchored VWAPs. We have in the past covered this anchored VWAPs and how to uh, draw these anchored VWAPs on market profile charts, and you can see the explanation itself is there. We drop anchored VWAPs on the market profile charts whenever a new swing low or a new swing high gets confirmed. So from we have from the end of September, we have been in a downtrend move. So we have been leaving swing highs more than swing lows. So the last master swing high we left on 2nd of Jan is what is the first anchored VWAP in Nifty futures. Then we left another one on 5th of February, after which we had couple of on 13th and 19th. But because the auction had started trading above those anchored VWAP, that I have deleted from this chart. And once we made this new swing low, this got confirmed. Once we closed higher on 5th, we drew a anchored VWAP from this 4th of March. To draw an anchored VWAP, you just need to go to that profile, do a right click, and you have this custom KRL. So in the custom KRL, you just need to select anchored VWAP, and then you can select your design and uh, line type and the color and place them. So why is this anchored VWAP useful? From the time a swing high or a swing low is made, you know that either the seller or the buyer is in control. So for example, we saw initiative buying coming in on 4th, and that got confirmed because we made higher value for the next day. So the buyer who has entered from here and the buying which is entered on subsequent days, they will be profitable till this anchored VWAP from this day is held. So this will be one support zone. So for tomorrow, we will see if this anchored VWAP of 22472 is held by these buyers, if we are seeing some demand coming back in order flow. If for any reason this anchored VWAP gets broken with an IS in the order flow, then we know that this bullish sequence is now getting negated, and in the meanwhile we have already left a swing high. So what I'll do is I'll add a quick swing high, because this swing high is got confirmed. So we'll add an anchored VWAP from the 7th of March, which is the recent swing high. So what it is telling us, it is giving us boundaries of the seller and the buyer. So it gives us a level which the seller has to take off to go lower, and vice versa for the buyer. So because today we have closed lower and we have confirmed this 22738 as a fresh swing high, this is that anchored VWAP from the 7th of March, which is a 22630. So this 22630 would be your reference for this seller to hold, and 22470 is your buy side anchored VWAP, which will be the support. So these are just references. We will have to see what the order flow does over here, and then accordingly look to take action. So hope this is a very useful tool, anchored VWAPs, and you definitely need to make use of this. And you can keep as and when, because there was a time where we had almost 5 swing highs in the Nifty futures chart. So what we do is we take the latest anchored VWAP as our reference to hold the swing short positions. And once it start hitting one anchored VWAP, you know it is time to be little careful with the shorts. So there's another question from Pandya. 10 bar caught is positive supply. Yes, I already mentioned, because the caught was green when we fell in Nifty, the K period caught, you can see it is 2000 green. So it is telling us that the supply is not added in this fall. So it could be sellers are covered, or there is some demand which is coming back. So ideally, we would want to hold shorts overnight when this cot is also red and we are closing at the lows. But here, because of the cot being green and the POC shifting lower, we are little skeptical to hold overnight shorts. But definitely at the open tomorrow, based on what the order flow shows us, we'll be ready to take positions accordingly. So let's now move on to the Bank Nifty profile chart and the order flow before we wind up for the day. So as you can see, Bank Nifty had already left this huge selling tail on the 6th, and this selling tail came at an important reference of 49100, which was the which was one of the highest volume point of the expiry day. 49100 and 49000, they were two HVNs when we we closed the February expiry, and we saw volume being built in the March expiry. So from that 49000, which was our rollover point, we were looking for a probe lower, which happened. We went on to make this low of 48110, and we made a bounce. This bounce left an initiative selling tail, and what we did was we formed a 3-day balance. So from 5th to 7th, Tuesday, uh, from Wednesday to Friday, we had this nice 3-day Gaussian curve, and today at the open we made a probe lower, but we took support right at this HVN of 48510. If I You can see how we have an HVN at 48510, which was also a daily VPOC, and then the lower reference was this VPOC of 48407. So we were holding that 48510, which was also the lows of Friday. So that was holding in the morning, and we went on to get back into this 3-day value. But you can see how, because of this initiative selling tail, this VWAP of the 3-day composite did not give gate pass today. The highs we made in the initial balance was right at that VWAP, and this is also the anchored VWAP from the swing high of that day. 6th of March is where we made that swing high of 49100, and the anchored VWAP which is drawn is also right there from this day. So these are the anchored VWAP. You can see them. 6th of March is the latest swing high which we left. So you can see how the anchored VWAPs is giving us a very uh, good signal that in the morning, in spite of us getting some demand at this 48510 level and getting back into this 3-day value, what was the reason we were not able to complete the 80% rule in this value? That is because this seller who had initiated on 6th is holding, and this VWAP is not giving the gate pass. and we are not getting enough demand to get above this VWAP. If we had done that, we would have gone on to tag this value area high, but that did not happen. Ultimately, what we did was we went back below this value and we left a scene of crime at this important 48510. We have an extension handle here, and then we even went on to swipe below this 48407. So you can see how this KTPO halfback at 48418 would be an important reference. And if you look at the bigger picture, we have moved away from this 3-day value on the downside. We have left an extension handle, and we have also swiped through this 2-day value which was there before. This 2-day value was held in the morning because of this 48500 level being a support. But once that broke, you can see how easily we completed the 80% rule in this value also. So, but again, just like in Nifty, the POC has shifted lower. So we will need to see, and the COT also has not been too bearish at all. You can see just like Nifty, the COT in Bank Nifty also in the drop was green. So it is definitely telling us it is either the sellers who are booking profits, and we will have to look for an IS bar to take a fresh short position tomorrow. That IS bar can come on the 3 minutes, and then later it can get confirmed. The bias wise, it can get confirmed on the 30 minutes. But this extension handle, if it is holding for more downside, we will need some IS signals in the order flow, and the COT has to show us that the sellers are adding. So the Bank Nifty does look that structure wise it is ready for new lows, but we will have to see this zeros, the zeros which have come on the order flow chart. The first zone of zeros is from that extension handle of 48510. That will be a reference, and you can see how the VWAP of today is also around the same zone. So that will be the main reference on the upside, but the immediate reference would be this 48400 level, the VPOC which was not visited but now is broken with a singles in the K period. So if we remain below this, and if we get order flow showing us reds tomorrow at the open below this POC of 48324, then we are looking for new lows in Bank Nifty futures. So this is how we are placed. Order flow wise, we have not got any 30 IB30 signals, IS nor IB. But overall structure wise, we have left this initiative selling tail, and today we have left an extension handle at two important places. So we will have to see some more reds coming in below these levels to get into short trade and hold it for this week going forward. So that is it for today from my side, guys. Hope we'll have a good trading week forward. Friday is a holiday, so the weekly settlement of Nifty, which is on Thursday, will also be the last day of this week, and the new weekly settlement will only start from next Monday. So let's see. As of now, the PLR seems to be down, with today's VWAP being the important reference both in Nifty futures and Bank Nifty futures. But as I mentioned, which will have to be followed by order flow showing us IS signals with red cot. So there are a couple of queries which I'll just quickly answer. We use a combination of market profile and order flow, so both are important. COT is just one part of the order flow. In the order flow, we give importance to 5 to 6 features. So the signal is the most important one. The IS or the IB signal is the most important in the COT. Then you get the LLTs. Then you get the in the order flow, the most important is the signal. Then you come to the LLTs. Then you come to the uh, uh, COT, 10 bar COT, and that particular bar COT. Yes, we did not get IS3, but what we saw in the puts was multiple IB bars. So, and the put which was 22,700, 22,800 puts which were trading below previous day's VWAP, in the afternoon in the J period, we saw a IB3 coming there right at previous day's VWAP. So when you get that IB3, it was followed by another IB3 inside 10 minutes. So that tells you that this is a trade you can look for, which was coming with a very low risk reward. So that is why we give a lot of importance to the options order flow. And sometimes even in the futures, if you don't get that signal, the option will give you the trade. Also, although the best signal is when you get it both in the futures and options, but sometimes you get the signal in the option, then you can look for a good trade in that as well. So thank you guys for joining in. And if you have any queries, you can mail to us at support@vtrender.com, or you can even DM me on X. My ID is open at Goel. So signing off for today, and let's have a great trading week going forward.